Hello, welcome back to Mysterious Case. In today's episode, we revisit a case in India. An addict with professionally trained culinary skills used them to dissect and dismember his lover's body, disposing of the pieces in a forest. The case sent shockwaves across the nation. Countless citizens called for the death penalty for his barbaric actions. India, a name that evokes images of a vibrant, colorful land where culture, tradition, and diversity intertwine in a way that leaves you in awe. Located in South Asia, India became the world's most populous country in 2023, surpassing China with over 1.4 billion people. From bustling metropolises like Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore, to tranquil villages nestled among rice fields and deep forests, India is a vivid tapestry of every emotion. It's a place where you can hear the blaring horns of crowded streets one moment and find serene silence by the sacred Ganges River the next. India is renowned for its ancient history, serving as the cradle of major religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. Structures like the Taj Mahal, a timeless symbol of love, or the ancient temples of Varanasi stand as testaments to its rich cultural and architectural heritage. Indian cuisine is a world of its own, from fiery curries and soft, fragrant naan to sweet masala tea, enough to make any food lover swoon. And then there's Bollywood, the colossal film industry where movies filled with music and dance have captivated millions of hearts worldwide. In November 2023, the small town of Chhatarpur in central India suddenly became the nation's focal point, not for its peaceful beauty or simple agricultural life. It began with a worried father, Vikas Madanwalkar, calling Delhi police to report that he hadn't heard from his daughter, Shraddha Walkar, in 6 months. The answer slowly unraveled through a horrific case where Shraddha, a promising 27-year-old woman, became the victim of one of modern India's most brutal killers. Shraddha was born in 1995 in Vasai, Maharashtra, to a stable middle-class family. Her father, Vikas, ran an electronics service business, while her mother and younger brother led quiet lives. Though the family was once happy, her parents' marriage fell apart, leaving Shraddha to live with her father. Raised in a Hindu educational environment, she completed high school before pursuing mass communication at Viva Institute of Technology. However, she dropped out after a year, opting to work at a customer service center for a steady income. It was there she met Aftab Poonawalla, who later became her boyfriend and her killer. Before everything turned dark, Shraddha was a lively young woman who loved solo travel and dreamed of exploring Nepal. But a fateful meeting with Aftab through the dating app Bumble in 2018 changed everything. What began as a seemingly romantic relationship gradually pulled Shraddha into a spiral of violence, isolation, and ultimately a tragic death. Aftab Poonawalla. Born in 1994 in Mumbai, Aftab grew up in a middle-class family with his parents, Munira and Amin Poonawalla. He had a sibling, but their relationship was often strained due to frequent arguments. After graduating with a degree in mass communication from a school in Mumbai, Aftab moved to Delhi, where he began crafting his online persona. Under the handle Hungry Chokro, Aftab gained fame as a foodstagrammer, amassing 27,000 followers on Instagram. His meticulously edited photos of dishes, ranging from expensive whiskey to humble Big Macs, left many in awe of his talent. But behind this glamorous facade was an entirely different person. Aftab wasn't just a professionally trained chef, he also knew how to handle meat with expertise, skills he later employed in his horrific crime. Despite earning income from social media, Aftab still worked at a customer service center where he met Shraddha. They quickly began dating after connecting on Bumble, and within a few months their relationship progressed to the point of planning to live together. This decision faced fierce opposition from Shraddha's father, Vikas, due to Aftab being Muslim while her family was Hindu. Vikas even accused Aftab of deliberately luring Shraddha to convert her, which led him to disown his daughter. Despite this, Shraddha chose to stay with Aftab, ignoring the warning signs. Her friends noticed his possessive nature, as he frequently cut off her contact with others, especially male friends. Shraddha's life became increasingly isolated, and Aftab, with his confident demeanor and flashy lifestyle, gradually revealed his cruel true nature. The relationship between Shraddha Walkar and Aftab Poonawalla initially seemed sweet, but it wasn't long before cracks began to appear. After moving in together in 2018, the two tried to maintain the image of a happy couple. However, behind closed doors, things were far from peaceful. As early as November 2020, less than 2 years into their relationship, Shraddha's friends had to take her to the hospital after Aftab assaulted her. She showed up with bruises around her neck and on her face, clear signs of violence. Her manager at work also noticed something was wrong when Shraddha confided about her boyfriend's aggressive behavior. But she always made excuses for him and refused help. A close friend, Godwin, recounted that Aftab didn't just physically abuse Shraddha, he also manipulated her mentally. He frequently threatened to kill himself if she left, leaving her confused and guilt-ridden. Even Aftab's parents called Shraddha, pleading with her to stay, claiming she was the only one who could save their son from collapse. This only deepened Shraddha's sense of entrapment, especially since she had already been cut off from her own family. She once told Godwin that Aftab was intensely jealous, forbidding her from talking to male friends, while he freely interacted with other women and even remained active on the dating app Bumble. Despite repeated warnings from friends and colleagues, Shraddha chose to stay. Perhaps she hoped Aftab would change, or she was too afraid to leave. By 2022, when they both lost their jobs and moved to Chhatarpur, tensions escalated further. Constant arguments combined with financial strain pushed their relationship to the breaking point. May 18, 2022 marked the final turning point in Shraddha Walkar's life. After years of enduring violence and manipulation from Aftab Poonawalla, an argument ended in tragedy. According to Aftab's statement, the conflict erupted over something trivial, buying groceries, but it exploded between two people living in poverty and isolation in their rented apartment in Chhatarpur. Aftab claimed Shraddha yelled at and attacked him first. Though friends described her as gentle, the truth of what happened in that moment will forever remain a mystery, as only two people were in the room, and one is no longer alive to contradict the story. Instead of walking away or seeking reconciliation, Aftab chose to end it all. He pushed Shraddha to the floor, pinned her down by the chest, and strangled her to death. With the strength of a young man trained as a chef and accustomed to handling knives, Aftab easily overpowered the petite Shraddha. After she stopped breathing, he didn't panic. He calmly devised a plan to cover up the crime. That night, Aftab left Shraddha's body in the apartment and even transferred 54,000 rupees, about $650 from her bank account to his own. A cold-blooded act suggesting financial motives may have played a role in the crime. The next morning, Aftab went out to buy garbage bags, 3 knives, a saw, and ordered a new refrigerator to store the body and prevent decomposition. He accidentally cut his hand while preparing the tools, forcing him to visit a nearby doctor for bandages, a small detail that later became key evidence. These calculated actions show that Aftab didn't just kill in a fit of rage. He was prepared to do whatever it took to erase the evidence. After killing Shraddha Walkar on May 18, 2022, Aftab Poonawalla didn't stop at merely concealing her death. He turned their Chhatarpur apartment into a gruesome scene that even seasoned investigators found chilling. Using the skills of a trained chef, Aftab dragged Shraddha's body into the bathroom, where he began the process of dismemberment. With the knives and saw he had just bought, he cut her body into small pieces, meticulously separating flesh from bone. The tougher parts he burned and ground into fine powder, much like a chef preparing ingredients. This process stretched over several days, taking place right in the bathtub, a haunting image when considering Aftab's calm demeanor throughout. He then divided the body parts into multiple garbage bags and stored them in the newly purchased refrigerator to prevent the stench from drawing attention. Not stopping there, Aftab ordered soap, gloves, bleach, and more garbage bags through a delivery app, then painstakingly cleaned the apartment to erase all traces of blood and the smell of death. Every step was carried out with cold, calculated precision, without a hint of hesitation. In the days that followed, Aftab began disposing of the body. He frequently left the house at 2 a.m., carrying bags containing Shraddha's remains to a nearby forest in Chhatarpur, scattering them along paths or tossing them into a lake. Her head he discarded into a body of water not far from the town, leaving the last fragments of Shraddha in the frigid depths. Those late-night trips seemed like they might help him evade justice, but it was his excessive caution that ultimately provided the clues for the police to uncover the truth. For 6 months after Shraddha Walker's death, no one noticed she was gone. It sounds unbelievable, but the isolation Aftab Poonawalla had imposed on her allowed him to conceal the crime. Shraddha had almost no contact with friends or colleagues, and her relationship with her family had long been fractured. A few sporadic Instagram messages in late May 2022 were her last signs of life, but now it's suspected Aftab sent them to throw people off. Her phone then went completely silent, and the world seemed to forget her. It wasn't until November 2023 that a call from her father, Vikas Madan Walkar, began to unravel the truth. Though he had once disowned his daughter for choosing to live with Aftab, Vikas quietly worried about her. After months without news, he reached out to Shraddha's friends, only to find they had no idea where she was either. Alarmed, he contacted the Delhi police, urging them to search for his daughter. Around the same time, a horrifying discovery in the forest near Chhatarpur heightened suspicions. Decomposed human remains were found scattered along paths and in a nearby lake. Though heavily decayed, the body parts were intact enough for police to conduct DNA testing. When Vikas's information was cross-checked with the test results, the heartbreaking truth emerged. The remains were Shraddha's. Police immediately turned their attention to Aftab, the last person she lived with. Details from friends about their toxic relationship, combined with 2 transactions of 54,000 rupees from Shraddha's account to Aftab's just before she vanished, made him the prime suspect. The investigation began, and Aftab, despite trying to appear innocent, couldn't escape forever. After identifying the remains in the forest as Shraddha Walker's, the Delhi police swiftly tracked down Aftab Poonawalla. In early November 2022, he was arrested for questioning. At first, Aftab was defiant, refusing to answer any questions about Shraddha. His lack of cooperation only deepened the investigators' suspicions. They searched the Chhatarpur apartment, seizing his phone, computer, and suspicious items. Financial data was analyzed, revealing 2 transfers from Shraddha to Aftab on May 18th, the last day she was alive. Mounting public pressure and overwhelming evidence eventually forced Aftab to speak. Under intense interrogation, Aftab gradually confessed to the crime. He recounted the argument that led to him strangling Shraddha, then detailed how he dismembered her in the bathroom, stored the parts in the refrigerator, and disposed of them piece by piece in the forest. He admitted to throwing Shraddha's head into a lake and scattering ground-up bones along paths, all to erase any trace. Aftab's confession was so chillingly detached that many found it hard to believe. He spoke of killing and handling the body as if it were routine work for a chef. The police didn't rely solely on his confession. They found physical evidence in the apartment, like traces of cleaned-up blood, and corroborated his account with the doctor who bandaged Aftab's hand after he injured himself. Bone fragments from the lake also matched Shraddha's DNA, despite significant decomposition. Still, Aftab tried to downplay his guilt, claiming Shraddha attacked him first. But with the mountain of evidence and the brutality of his actions, no one believed him. The case has now moved to trial, where the nation awaits justice. After Aftab Poonawalla's arrest in November 2022, the Shraddha Walker case entered the trial phase, but it was far from smooth. With over 6,000 pages of evidence, including digital data, forensic analysis, and witness statements, the police built a solid case against Aftab. By May 2024, a supplementary charge sheet with 3,000 new pieces of evidence was filed, further solidifying his position as the perpetrator. However, Aftab repeatedly appealed, switching lawyers 3 times in a year, forcing each new one to review the massive dossier from scratch. This delaying tactic infuriated Shraddha's family and the public. Even more contentious was a Delhi court's proposal to conduct a narco test, a method involving an anesthetic injection to compel Aftab to tell the truth. He flatly refused, calling it an opaque process. Still, pressure from the public and the police's persistence left him with no way out. Despite his confession, Aftab insisted he wasn't guilty of murder, claiming self-defense. His lack of remorse, coupled with demands for special treatment in prison, like bottled water and extra time outside, only fueled further outrage. Meanwhile, the case kept leaking to the media, keeping it burning in the eyes of the Indian public. Many demanded the death penalty for Aftab, especially Shraddha's father, Vikas, who hired top lawyers to fight for justice. Protests erupted outside the courthouse, with angry crowds calling for the trial to be expedited. Yet, as of April 8, 2025, Aftab remains in prison, living in isolation and fearing poisoning, while the trial drags on without resolution. Justice for Shraddha still seems a long way off. Behind the horrific Shraddha Walker case lie terrifying details about Aftab Poonawala's life that few could have imagined. According to Shraddha's friends like Godwin, Aftab wasn't just an abuser, he was also involved with drugs. He regularly used and sold substances like hash brownies, even hosting weekend parties with friends. Godwin recalled late nights between 2 and 3 a.m. when strangers would show up at the apartment to buy drugs from Aftab. Despite lacking a steady job, he maintained a comfortable lifestyle, leading many to suspect his money came from illegal activities. Shraddha had objected to this habit, but every time she spoke up, Aftab would beat her brutally. In her friends' eyes, Shraddha was once a free-spirited girl who loved solo travel and lived like a hippie. But after meeting Aftab, she felt completely under his control. He not only cut her off from family and friends, but also manipulated her finances. Shraddha often had to borrow money from her family for expenses, only for it to end up funding Aftab's personal indulgences. She once confided in Godwin about wanting to leave, but Aftab always threatened suicide or used his parents to pressure her, trapping her in the toxic relationship. Another shocking detail is that Aftab's family seemed aware of his nature. Godwin revealed that just 15 days before the murder, Aftab's parents suddenly moved out of Vasai, where they had lived for decades, as if they anticipated something was coming. They had previously urged Shraddha to stay with their son, despite her repeated beatings. These hidden aspects not only paint a portrait of a killer, but also raise questions about the accountability of those around him. The Shraddha Walkar case is not just a story of crime, but a wake-up call for Indian society. Shraddha, a bright and lively young woman, fell into a spiral of violence and manipulation at the hands of Aftab Poonawala, someone she once trusted. She was isolated from her family and friends, ultimately losing her life in the very apartment she lived in. The case sparked fierce debates about domestic violence and femicide in India, where many women feel trapped in toxic relationships with no way out. Shraddha once told her therapist she feared that if she left, Aftab would hunt her down and kill her, a tragic prediction that came true. The Indian public erupted in outrage, demanding justice, with many calling for Aftab's death penalty. Her father, Vikas, led this charge, determined to ensure his daughter's killer faced consequences. Still, there's no denying the case left a deep scar on Shraddha's family and society as a whole. Aftab, now confined in prison, lives in isolation and paranoia, but shows no remorse, further fueling public anger. Shraddha's story serves as a reminder that love should not be blind. Her friend Godwin urged people not to cut off family or friends for an untested stranger. Shraddha gave up everything for Aftab, but the cost was her life. As of April 8, 2025, the case remains unresolved, leaving a lingering question. Will justice truly be served, or will Shraddha become just another forgotten victim in the passage of time?
Now, let's revisit the story of Eleanor Williams. Eleanor Williams, a young woman from the coastal town of Barrow-in-Furness in northern England, was once at the center of a shocking case that rocked public opinion. This small town, with a population of about 55,000, lies isolated along the Irish Sea coast, far from major cities like Manchester or Leeds. Barrow-in-Furness was a hub of the steel industry in the 19th century, but today, economic decline has left it subdued, carrying the weary air of a forgotten land. Still, the community here is tight-knit, living a simple, uneventful life. Eleanor, or Ellie as she was known, grew up in a relatively well-off family on Walney Island, where homes are worth twice as much as those on the mainland. She was the daughter of Alison Johnston, an active member of the Labour Party, and lived with her mother, stepfather, brother, and sister. The Williams family was described as loving and supportive, but Ellie displayed unusual behavior from a young age. At Walney High School, she frequently skipped classes, left lessons, or acted strangely, leaving her peers puzzled. Nevertheless, neighbors described Ellie as a friendly girl from a happy family. However, Ellie began drawing attention with her peculiar stories. From 2017, at the age of 16, she caused alarm for her family and the police by repeatedly disappearing from home. Within a single year, she was reported missing 32 times, often found intoxicated or in a dazed state in unexpected places. These disappearances not only distressed her mother, Alison, but also marked the beginning of a chain of events leading to one of the most controversial cases in the UK. Ellie's story is not just about a young woman who lost her way, but also about lies that shook an entire community. In 2017, at the age of 16, Eleanor Williams began drawing attention with serious allegations. In November 2017, Ellie went to the hospital with her mother, claiming she had been sexually assaulted by a man named Cameron Bibby at a party in Barrow-in-Furness. According to her account, Cameron had spiked her drink with vodka, dragged her into a bedroom, and attacked her. She further stated that she later received threatening messages from him on Snapchat with content like, "I drugged you, raped you, and left you." These accusations led to Cameron, aged 22, being immediately questioned by the police. However, Cameron vehemently denied the claims. He admitted Ellie had attended a party at his house but insisted she was already intoxicated, and he only contacted her sister to ensure she got home safely. Upon further investigation, the police found no evidence to substantiate Ellie's story. The Snapchat messages she provided showed inconsistencies, and ultimately, Ellie withdrew her accusation. Cameron was released, but he remained under investigation for an additional 6 months, leaving a lasting stain on his life. 2 years later, in March 2019, Ellie shocked others again by telling a co-worker that she had been drugged and assaulted by another man, Jordan Trengove, after a party. The co-worker promptly reported it to the police, but when questioned, Ellie refused to pursue the matter. The investigation revealed that Jordan and Ellie had been at the same party, but he had a clear alibi. The police had driven him home that night after an altercation with a taxi driver, and he was with another woman. Once again, Ellie's allegations could not be substantiated. These incidents began to raise doubts about Ellie's truthfulness. She frequently went missing, sometimes found in a state of intoxication, or having used drugs like cannabis and cocaine. Her family, particularly her mother, was constantly worried, but no one anticipated that Ellie's lies would soon escalate into a storm. By 2019, Eleanor Williams, now 19, had moved out to live on her own in an apartment in Barrow-in-Furness, distancing herself from her family after numerous conflicts with her mother and stepfather. This newfound independence seemed to provide her with the opportunity to continue her shocking stories. In May 2019, Ellie made an emergency call to the police, claiming she had been attacked by Jordan Trengove again. She described being beaten with a showerhead, threatened with a knife, and raped 3 times. She even presented vulgar messages such as, "You want me to do it, I'll rape you again." Bruises on her face made her story appear more convincing. Jordan was arrested immediately and held for 73 days in a section of Preston Prison reserved for sex offenders, despite his persistent claims of innocence. Jordan's life was turned upside down. His home was vandalized with paint and insults by victims of Eleanor's lies. Windows were smashed with stones, and he faced contempt from the community. However, the investigation revealed that Ellie had fabricated the messages using a fake Snapchat account set up from her home Wi-Fi network. Jordan was eventually released, but the emotional toll lingered. Around the same time, Ellie began accusing another man, Mohammed Ramzan, a well-known Asian businessman in Barrow. She claimed Mohammed had groomed her since she was 12, orchestrating a human trafficking network that forced her to have sex with multiple men at parties in Rochdale, Blackpool, and even sold her in Amsterdam and Ibiza. These allegations echoed high-profile sexual abuse scandals in Rochdale and Rotherham, prompting heightened police concern. They formed a large investigative team, fearing Barrow might be hiding a similar criminal network. The Barrow community grew unsettled. Rumors spread rapidly, and suspicion fell heavily on people of Asian descent. An Indian restaurant had its windows smashed, and a Muslim man was chased and attacked on the street. Hate crime incidents tripled that summer. Meanwhile, Ellie continued to disappear, reappearing with unexplained injuries, further bewildering her family and the police. On May 20, 2020, amidst the UK's lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Eleanor Williams, then 20 years old, posted on Facebook in a way that shook the entire town of Barrow and Furness. The post began with the words, "This is the hardest post I've ever had to write." Ellie claimed she had been kidnapped by 3 Asian men, forced into sexual acts, and brutally beaten. She alleged she had been trafficked across northern England, to Amsterdam and Ibiza, enduring savage assaults. Accompanying the post were shocking images. Her face covered in bruises, eyes swollen, and body marked with cuts and contusions. The post spread like wildfire, garnering over 100,000 views within hours. The Barrow community was enraged. The hashtag number Justice for Ellie trended on social media, and a Facebook group supporting Ellie attracted over 60,000 members. A fundraising campaign was launched, raising more than £22,000, approximately $27,000, to support her legal efforts. Ellie's family, particularly her sister and mother, stood by her, believing her injuries and repeated disappearances were proof of her horrific ordeal. Much of the UK seemed to rally behind Ellie, demanding justice for the young woman brave enough to speak out. However, the post did not only spark sympathy, it ignited fury. The Barrow community became divided, with hostility toward people of Asian descent intensifying. Racially motivated attacks erupted. Shops were vandalized, and residents faced threats. Mohammed Ramzan, whom Ellie accused as the ringleader, suffered immense losses. His home was raided, and his ice cream business collapsed as customers shunned him, branding him a human trafficker. His family received over 500 threatening messages. In despair, Mohammed attempted suicide, but fortunately, the attempt failed. Meanwhile, the police began noticing inconsistencies in Ellie's story. Her supporters were stunned to learn that she was arrested shortly after the post, not for being attacked, but for breaching bail conditions related to charges of perverting the course of justice. The truth behind that fateful post was starting to unravel, but the storm it had unleashed showed no signs of subsiding. Following Eleanor Williams' explosive Facebook post in May 2020, the police began a deeper investigation into her allegations. They were already familiar with Ellie due to her frequent reports of going missing, and her history of unsubstantiated accusations. But this time, the scale of her claims, ranging from human trafficking to brutal assaults, demanded a more thorough investigation than ever before. However, the more they probed, the more they uncovered signs that things were not as Ellie described. One of Ellie's most serious allegations was that Mohammed Ramzan had forced her to go to Blackpool to engage in sexual acts with multiple men. Yet, CCTV footage from Preston train station showed Ellie traveling alone, with no signs of coercion. She booked a room at the Palatine Hotel herself, bought instant noodles and milk that evening, and stayed in her room all night watching YouTube. The next morning, she took a bus home on her own, showing no visible injuries. Her claim of being sold in Amsterdam also collapsed when Mohammed produced receipts proving he was shopping at a B&Q store in the UK on the day Ellie claimed he was in the Netherlands. The incident on May 18, 2020, further clarified the truth. Ellie was found in a field, her face bruised and a finger nearly severed, claiming she'd been attacked by 10 men. But nearby, the police found a blood-stained hammer belonging to her, and CCTV from a Tesco supermarket showed Ellie purchasing that same hammer days earlier. A forensic doctor concluded that her injuries were all in locations she could have inflicted herself with her right hand, inconsistent with her story of a group assault. At the same time, the threatening messages Ellie provided showed irregularities. They were sent from fake Snapchat accounts, such as Trengy7, attributed to Jordan Trengove, or Solsa, linked to a non-existent trafficker, all created using Ellie's home Wi-Fi. She also impersonated friends, altering contact names to fabricate conversations that supported her narrative. These findings shifted the police's focus, no longer viewing Ellie as a victim, but as a suspect. Yet, a major question remained. Why would she fabricate such a horrific story? Eleanor Williams' lies not only caused chaos in Barrow and Furness, but also left deep scars on those she falsely accused. Jordan Trengove, one of her earliest victims, suffered immense harm after being accused of rape. Though released after 73 days in prison, he faced community ostracism. His home was vandalized, windows smashed, and insults like rapist followed him everywhere. Jordan fell into severe depression, attempted suicide, and was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. He had to leave Barrow to start over, but the painful memories continued to haunt him. Mohammed Ramzan, the Asian businessman Ellie accused of leading a trafficking ring, faced a similar fate. His ice cream business collapsed as customers turned away. His home was searched in the middle of the night, and his family received hundreds of threatening messages. Mohammed lived in fear, shunned by the community, and attempted suicide under the unbearable pressure. His wife and children were also affected, living in constant anxiety of potential attacks. Though innocent, it took him years to restore his reputation. Cameron Bibby, falsely accused by Ellie in 2017, was too afraid to leave his home, fearing judgment. He even avoided picking up his son from daycare due to concerns of retaliation. Oliver Gardner, a man who merely crossed paths with Ellie on the street, was dragged into the ordeal when she accused him of being part of a trafficking group. Oliver suffered a mental breakdown, was admitted to a psychiatric hospital after a suicide attempt, and struggled with PTSD. The consequences extended beyond those named. Barrow's Asian community became a target of a wave of hatred. Racially motivated attacks surged, from property vandalism to street assaults. A man named Sagid lost 95% of his shop's revenue, while Adele had to borrow money to keep his restaurant afloat. Ellie's lies not only destroyed individual lives, but also fractured an entire town, leaving lasting wounds in the hearts of many. As the police unraveled Eleanor Williams's lies, the intricate web of accusations she had constructed began to collapse. By mid-2020, the evidence against Ellie was undeniable. Beyond CCTV footage and phone data, the police discovered she used multiple devices to fabricate her stories. Ellie had 2 phones, one provided by a Barrow women's charity, which she used to send messages impersonating other victims, such as Nicole. She also wrote handwritten letters, pretending to be Mohammed Ramzan, apologizing for harming her, to bolster her false narrative. A striking detail was how Ellie manipulated people's emotions. She renamed friends in her contacts as fictional traffickers, taking screenshots of messages to use as evidence. She deliberately crafted fake messages with poor grammar and foreign-sounding names like Solsa, to create the impression they came from an Asian criminal group. However, forensic linguists such as Professor Lee Grant pointed out that all the messages shared Ellie's distinct writing style, proving she was their sole author. In July 2019, Ellie was arrested for perverting the course of justice, but was released on strict bail conditions. Yet she didn't stop. The May 2020 Facebook post was seen as a final attempt to prop up her story, even as suspicion mounted. After the post, Ellie went missing again, this time found in critical condition with severe injuries. She insisted she had been attacked, but the police determined she had harmed herself. In desperation, Ellie also attempted suicide but was fortunately saved. Ultimately, faced with overwhelming evidence, from Snapchat data, Mohammed's receipts, to forensic medical conclusions, Ellie could no longer deny the truth. She admitted to some of her lies, but offered no explanation for her actions. The police concluded that the entire saga of trafficking, assaults, and abuse was a product of a disturbed imagination. Ellie was detained awaiting trial, marking a turning point in the case. Yet the question of her true motives remained a mystery, leaving the lives of many families upended. In October 2022, Eleanor Williams' trial took place at Preston Crown Court, drawing significant public attention. Ellie, then 22, faced 8 counts of perverting the course of justice. The evidence presented was irrefutable. CCTV footage showed her buying a hammer at Tesco, Snapchat data revealed she created fake messages, and forensic analysis confirmed her injuries were self-inflicted. A forensic doctor testified that the bruises and cuts were only in areas Ellie could have struck with her right hand, dismantling her claim of a group assault. The prosecution highlighted the sophistication of her lies. Ellie not only falsely accused Jordan Trengove, Mohammed Ramzan, Cameron Bibi, and Oliver Gardner, but also invented numerous non-existent figures, such as Rolo Kelsey and Solsa. She claimed over 50 other girls were victims of a fictional trafficking ring, yet when police contacted them, none corroborated her story. A fake Snapchat account impersonating Jordan was traced to Ellie's home Wi-Fi, and receipts from B&Q fully exonerated Mohammed. In court, Ellie denied self-harming, stating, "I'm not some psychopath who'd buy a hammer to hit myself." The trial also probed Ellie's psychology. Dr. Lucy Bacon, a psychiatrist who had monitored her since 2019, diagnosed Ellie with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, possibly stemming from an undisclosed childhood trauma. She suspected Ellie had been sexually abused, citing signs like substance abuse and suicidal thoughts. However, Dr. Martin Locke, representing the prosecution, found no evidence of any mental disorder, suggesting Ellie's lack of cooperation might be due to his gender. Judge Altham acknowledged Ellie's difficult childhood but noted there was insufficient evidence to pinpoint the cause of her behavior. After a 10-week trial, the jury took just 3.5 hours to find Ellie guilty. She was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison, with the possibility of parole in 2027. Shockingly, Ellie showed no remorse, still viewing herself as a victim. The mystery of why she fabricated such a story remained unresolved, leaving the court and community perplexed.
Of course, I've considered whether the aberrant nature of these offences means that I should assume that the defendant is suffering from some mental impairment. There is no explanation for why the defendant would commit these offences. She has gone to extraordinary lengths to create false accusations, including causing herself significant injury. No explanation for this behaviour is apparent. However, that does not mean that I should speculate. Unless and until the defendant chooses to say why she has told these lies, we will not know.
The Eleanor Williams case didn't end with her 8.5-year prison sentence. It left profound scars on the Barrow and Furness community. Those she falsely accused, Jordan Trengove, Mohammed Ramzan, Cameron Bibi, and Oliver Gardner, faced a long road to recovery. Jordan, wrongfully imprisoned for 73 days, struggled to bond with his newborn son due to lingering trauma. Mohammed lost his career and the community's trust, while Cameron became so fearful he avoided going outside. Oliver required long-term psychological treatment after being pushed to the brink of suicide. All carried emotional wounds that were far from healed. The Barrow community was deeply fractured. The wave of hatred targeting people of Asian descent had severe consequences. Over 150 incidents related to racial prejudice were recorded following Ellie's post, including 83 hate crimes. Businesses owned by Asians, like Sagid's shop and Adele's restaurant, teetered on the edge of bankruptcy as customers turned away. Moreover, the case made genuine victims of sexual abuse hesitant to speak out, fearing they'd be doubted like Ellie. Maggie Oliver, a former detective who exposed the Rochdale scandal, expressed sorrow that Ellie's lies undermined trust in real victims. Ellie's family wasn't spared from the fallout. Her mother, Alison Johnston, was suspended from the Labour Party due to her association with the case. Although the £22,000 raised for Ellie was reportedly partly donated to charity, disputes over how the funds were used persisted. Notably, Ellie's family, particularly Alison, clung to the belief that their daughter was a victim of some undisclosed truth. They didn't fully accept the court's verdict, adding further complexity to the saga. A contentious aspect was Ellie's motive. Beyond the PTSD diagnosis, some suggested she had a pathological tendency to lie, having previously fabricated stories about giving birth or being in a coma. Theories posited that Ellie might have been influenced by films like Taken or craved attention. Yet no one could pinpoint what drove her to weave such a horrific web of deceit. The case closed, but questions about her psychology and the truth lingered, leaving a costly lesson about trust and the consequences of words. An unexpected twist in the Eleanor Williams case emerged when her diary referenced a man named Sarge, also known as Shahid Javed, one of 3 Amir brothers convicted in 2023 for child sexual abuse in Barrow and Leeds. Sarge, along with his brothers Shahid Alam and Shahid Janvier, received life sentences for 62 offenses, including rape and threats against multiple girls, some as young as 7, from 1996 to 2010. Ellie's 2019 diary documented encounters with Sarge, portraying him as terrifying, controlling, and violent. She described being threatened, stalked at the pub where she worked, and feeling helpless in his presence. This revelation sparked a question. Was Ellie truly a victim of Sarge? Or was this another facet of her fabrications? Cumbria police maintained they thoroughly investigated and found no evidence connecting Ellie to the Amir brothers. Yet, her mention of Sarge, a man later convicted of real crimes, led some, including her mother and a few of Sarge's other victims, to believe Ellie might have been partially truthful. Elizabeth, a witness in the Amir case, and Sarah, a victim of Sarge in Hull, both argued that Ellie's reference to him warranted closer examination during her trial. However, Mohammed Ramzan, one of those falsely accused by Ellie, raised a counterpoint. If Ellie genuinely knew about Sarge, why did she implicate innocent people in her story? The truth about any link between Ellie and Sarge remains elusive, as she never provided clear answers. After serving her sentence, Ellie was released in 2025, but did not return to Barrow, choosing to live quietly to avoid scrutiny. The Eleanor Williams case offers a profound lesson about the power of social media and the risks of hastily believing emotionally charged narratives. Ellie's post spread rapidly, sowing chaos before the truth could surface. It reminds us to exercise caution, verify information, and not let emotions override reason. Furthermore, the case underscores the importance of supporting genuine victims while safeguarding the innocent from false accusations. The damage caused by Ellie's actions has gradually begun to mend, but this story will forever remain a scar in the town's memory. What do you think about Eleanor Williams' story? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, and I'd greatly appreciate your support with a like or subscribe. In this episode, we'll revisit the disappearance of Stephen Kazi. As always, wishing you a great day, and don't forget to support the channel with a subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below the video. Our videos are solely for informational purposes and always hope for positivity from you. Thank you. Now let's get started. On the morning of Tuesday, March 21, 2023 in Largo, Florida, Stephen Kazi, a 41-year-old attorney, began his workday as usual. He arrived at the Blanchard Law Office, where he had worked for 6 years, with a busy schedule, responding to emails, reviewing documents, and preparing for an important online meeting at 10:30 a.m. Stephen left his phone playing music, wallet, keys, and laptop on his desk, suggesting he only intended to step away briefly. But this time, when he entered the building's shared restroom, it was the last time anyone saw him. Stephen wasn't someone who would simply vanish. He was a dedicated attorney, a Stetson University law graduate specializing in labor and civil law. Colleagues described him as thoughtful, friendly, and always putting his clients' interests first. Outside of work, Stephen was a loving husband, a reliable friend, fond of raising dogs, hiking, and spending time with family. His sudden disappearance shocked everyone who knew him. Jake Blanchard, the law office owner and Stephen's close friend, immediately felt uneasy when he didn't return. When colleagues began searching, they realized Stephen was nowhere in the building, yet his car remained untouched in the parking lot. Even stranger, when they checked the restroom, a pungent chemical smell, believed to be bleach, filled the air. A few small bloodstains overlooked on the walls and floor sent chills down everyone's spines. The Largo police were called immediately, and what they uncovered afterward turned the disappearance into a tense criminal investigation. Stephen Kazi, a man who seemed to have no enemies, had become the victim of something sinister. When the Largo police arrived at the Blanchard Law Office on the morning of March 21, 2023, the atmosphere was already thick with anxiety. Stephen Causey, a beloved attorney, had vanished during work hours, leaving everything on his desk as if he had only stepped away for a few minutes. But what sent chills through everyone was the unsettling signs in the building's shared restroom, where Stephen was believed to have gone before disappearing. Upon entering the restroom, the police immediately noticed a pungent chemical smell, like bleach, permeating the space. Jake Blanchard, the office owner and Stephen's close friend, had earlier reported strange stains on the walls and floor that looked like blood. Upon closer inspection, the forensic team discovered small bloodstains that had been overlooked, though it seemed someone had tried to clean the area. These stains were later confirmed through DNA testing to belong to Stephen, turning the restroom into a potential crime scene. The police continued to examine the building, a shared office space with multiple entrances and exits, but, unfortunately, no indoor surveillance cameras. However, they found a camera outside the main entrance that captured footage of a man dressed in black, wearing gloves and carrying a backpack, entering the building at 8:30 a.m., just minutes before Stephen arrived. About 2 hours later, at 10:22 a.m., the same man reappeared, pulling a heavily loaded cart covered with what looked like a red bag or blanket. Footage of the man struggling to lift the cart into the bed of a gray Toyota Tundra truck further raised suspicions. Another clue emerged when an employee from a neighboring office reported that, a week earlier, they had seen a man hiding in a utility closet near the restroom. Fingerprints found on the closet door added to the mystery. These findings led the police to believe that Stephen's disappearance was not random, but the result of a carefully planned scheme. After uncovering disturbing signs in the Blanchard Law Office restroom, the Largo police knew Stephen Causey's disappearance was far from simple. They quickly turned to technological leads, hoping to track down the mysterious man seen on surveillance footage. The camera outside the building's main entrance had captured a person dressed in black, wearing gloves, pulling a heavily loaded cart as they left at 10:22 a.m. on March 21, 2023. The gray Toyota Tundra truck used by this individual became a focal point. The police utilized the license plate reader camera system employed by law enforcement, a powerful tool for tracking the Tundra's route. Just about an hour after leaving the office, the truck was recorded heading toward Tarpon Springs, not far away. What chilled investigators was footage from another camera. In the truck's bed, under the red bag or blanket, there appeared to be an object resembling a human body. This evidence left them nearly certain that Stephen was no longer alive. Following the trail further, the police discovered that the Tundra arrived at a luxurious home in Tarpon Springs, owned by someone named Thomas Kasowski, also known as Tampa Bay Doctor. Through investigation, the truck was found to have been purchased in October 2022 with no official records. However, the seller provided information that helped police link it to Kasowski. Data from Kasowski's phone also became a critical clue. Location records showed his phone traveling from Tarpon Springs to Miami the next day, passing through Collier County, home to a large landfill. The police also learned that, just weeks before the incident, Kasowski had bought a red Toyota Corolla, with cash, unregistered, and equipped with a license plate changing device. These details led police to suspect that Kasowski not only planned meticulously, but also tried to conceal his movements. With each piece of technological evidence pieced together, the picture of a dark conspiracy became clearer, and Thomas Kasowski emerged as the prime suspect. Thomas Kasowski, also known as Tampa Bay Doctor, is a prominent figure in cosmetic surgery in Florida. At 44, he boasts an enviable career. Graduating from the prestigious Dartmouth College, earning a master's degree from the University of New Mexico, and becoming a certified surgeon. Kasowski is renowned for his pioneering technique of using natural fat for breast and buttock augmentation. He resides in a $1 million mansion in Tarpon Springs and owns an apartment in Miami, where he frequently works. Beyond his medical expertise, Kasowski is a social media enthusiast. He regularly posts videos on YouTube and Instagram, showcasing successful surgeries and sharing glimpses of his glamorous lifestyle, attracting thousands of followers.
Hi Instagrammers, I just wanted to let you all know we hit 4,000 followers last night, which is awesome. Thank you so much for all your love and support. You guys mean the world to us. Please encourage, tag, let your friends know about us, because once we hit 5,000, we're going to have a huge party and a big giveaway here.
Kosowski was particularly sensitive about his public image. He once declared he would throw a grand party when he reached 5,000 Instagram followers, offering gifts like Botox or facials. However, this obsession with fame led him into trouble. In 2016, while working at the Leifer Cosmetic Surgery Institute, Kosowski faced a serious issue. An insurance staff member was accused of mishandling payment claims, costing him tens of thousands of dollars and earning numerous negative online reviews. Kosowski claimed these reviews ruined his career. He left the institute, opened his own clinic in 2018, and decided to sue Leifer and former colleagues for negligence and fraud. This lawsuit tied him to Stephen Kazi, the attorney representing the defendants. But Kosowski's actions before Stephen's disappearance raised suspicions. A week prior, a nearby office worker reported seeing him hiding in a utility closet near the bathroom, where Stephen later vanished. Additionally, Kosowski purchased an unregistered car, stockpiled cash, and owned a massive arsenal of over 200 firearms. Could this flamboyant doctor be concealing a darker side? To understand why Stephen Kazi became a target, we must examine the lawsuit that pitted him against Thomas Kosowski. The conflict originated in 2016 when Kosowski was employed at the Leifer Cosmetic Surgery Institute. He alleged that an insurance employee mishandled payment records, causing him financial losses and negative online client reviews. These reviews, Kosowski claimed, severely damaged his reputation, a matter he deeply valued. In 2023, he sued the Leifer Institute and several former colleagues, seeking compensation for negligence, breach of contract, and misrepresentation. Stephen Kazi, a lawyer at the Blanchard law firm, was assigned to represent the Leifer Institute, making him Kosowski's direct adversary in the case. Though simply doing his job, Stephen inadvertently stepped into a dangerous situation. The lawsuit was valued at approximately $15,000, a modest sum for a wealthy doctor like Kosowski. For him, however, it was not just about money but about honor and personal image. Those close to Kosowski described him as calm but highly sensitive when his reputation was threatened. The tension between the two men extended beyond the courtroom. In January 2023, just 2 months before Stephen's disappearance, a heated argument erupted between him and Kosowski in a common area of the Blanchard law office. Multiple witnesses confirmed the incident, indicating their conflict had reached a boiling point. Moreover, Kosowski had visited the office several times for depositions, likely familiarizing himself with the building's layout, including the bathroom and nearby utility closet. Notably, Kosowski chose to represent himself in the lawsuit after clashing with his previous attorney. This decision heightened his stress as he faced Stephen, a lawyer regarded as intelligent and dedicated. Could anger from the lawsuit have driven Kosowski to an extreme act? Or was there a deeper motive behind their conflict? These questions only deepen the mystery of the case. When Largo police traced clues from a Toyota Tundra to Thomas Kosowski's lavish Tarpon Springs home, they obtained a warrant to search his residence and vehicles. What they uncovered not only reinforced suspicions but painted a chilling picture of a meticulously prepared plan. In Kosowski's garage, investigators found bloodstains on the floor and in the Tundra's bed. DNA testing confirmed the blood belonged to Stephen Kazi, mixed with traces of Kosowski's DNA, suggesting he may have attempted to clean up evidence. Furthermore, police discovered a staggering arsenal in the house, over 200 firearms of various types. While Kosowski might have been a collector, the sheer number raised questions about his true intentions. But that wasn't all. Weeks before Stephen's disappearance, Kosowski had purchased a red Toyota Corolla with cash, unregistered, and equipped with a license plate flipper. When stopped by police on March 25, 2023, he was driving this Corolla. Inside, they found a bag containing shocking items: $280,000 in cash, a mask, duct tape, handcuffs, a stun gun, blood-stained body armor, and a syringe filled with succinylcholine, a potent paralytic drug. These items clashed starkly with the image of a successful cosmetic surgeon. Police also examined Kosowski's phone data. Location records showed he traveled from Tarpon Springs to Miami, passing through Collier County, home to a large landfill. Another report revealed that a garbage truck camera had captured footage of a large trash bag falling out, appearing to contain a human body. Though Stephen's body was never found, these findings heightened suspicions of Kosowski's direct involvement in the disappearance. How could a renowned doctor possess such items, and why was he so thoroughly prepared? These questions continue to haunt investigators. Based on the collected evidence, prosecutors in Largo, Florida, constructed a detailed theory about Stephen Koszy's disappearance, pointing directly at Thomas Kosowski. They allege that Kosowski, enraged by Stephen's role in the Lafer Institute lawsuit, meticulously planned his murder. Prosecutors claim Kosowski went to the Blanchard Law Office on the morning of March 21, 2023, hiding in a utility closet near the bathroom, a detail supported by his fingerprints found there. When Stephen entered the bathroom, Kosowski followed, attacked him, and possibly used a paralytic like succinylcholine to subdue him. Prosecutors believe Kosowski then dragged Stephen's body out, using a cart, as captured on camera, and loaded it into the bed of his Toyota Tundra. He allegedly attempted to erase evidence with bleach, explaining the strong chemical odor and residual bloodstains. They further assert that Kosowski drove to his Tarpon Springs home, then to Miami, possibly disposing of Stephen's body at a Collier County landfill or in the Everglades, an area notoriously difficult to search. They highlight his purchase of an unregistered car, stockpiling of cash, and possession of suspicious items as evidence of a premeditated murder. However, the case has its weaknesses. Stephen's body has not been found, complicating efforts to determine the exact cause of death. Additionally, no witnesses saw Stephen leave the building, and the camera footage only shows an unidentified man with an unclear face. Kosowski's motive is also debated. Would a $15,000 lawsuit drive a successful doctor to such brutality? Friends describe Kosowski as calm and deliberate, raising questions about whether something else fueled his actions. These uncertainties pose a significant challenge for prosecutors. How to convince a jury with only circumstantial evidence? The case, therefore, remains shrouded in unanswered questions. Stephen Koszy's disappearance wasn't just a shock to the police. It shook the entire Largo, Florida community. Known for his warmth and dedication, Stephen left a lasting impression on those who knew him. As news of his disappearance spread, friends, colleagues, and family struggled to believe that someone as kind as Stephen could face such a horrific fate. They gathered, seeking answers and clinging to increasingly faint hope. On March 29, 2023, just a week after the incident, the St. Petersburg Bar Association held a heartfelt memorial to honor Stephen. Dozens of people, colleagues, close friends, and others, came together to share memories of him. Michael Montgomery, Stephen's husband, stood before the crowd, heartbroken yet full of love. He spoke of Stephen's intelligence, humor, and compassion, highlighting how he was always ready to help those in need.
One of the coolest things about this whole that's come out of this tragedy is that I've gotten to basically meet my husband again by seeing pictures that I didn't know existed and learning about things that I didn't know he did, and I'm incredibly grateful.
The Largo legal community also expressed deep respect for Stephen. He was not only a talented attorney, but also an inspiring figure who prioritized justice and fairness. Many voiced anger and unease as the crime occurred in a supposedly safe space like a law office. A GoFundMe page set up to support Stephen's family received overwhelming contributions, even from strangers, reflecting the breadth of his impact. Meanwhile, family and friends tirelessly prayed for the truth to surface. They sought justice for Stephen, but the greatest pain was not knowing his whereabouts. With each passing day without finding his body, their grief deepened. Yet, memories of Stephen's kindness and smile fueled their resolve to keep fighting for answers in an inexplicable tragedy. The Largo community remained determined to ensure Stephen's story would not be forgotten. After his arrest on March 25, 2023, Thomas Kosowski was charged with first-degree murder in connection with Stephen Koszy's disappearance. He is currently held without bail, facing the possibility of life imprisonment or even the death penalty if convicted. Kosowski's trial is scheduled to begin on April 17, 2025, and it promises to be a high-profile event, not only due to the case's severity, but also because of the surrounding legal controversies. Prosecutors are confident in their extensive circumstantial evidence. Stephen's blood in Kosowski's home and truck, his fingerprints in the utility closet, camera footage of a man pulling a heavily laden cart, and the suspicious items found in Kosowski's Corolla. They argue this was a premeditated murder driven by Kosowski's resentment toward Stephen over the Lafer Institute lawsuit. Prosecutors have declared their intent to seek the death penalty, emphasizing Kosowski's meticulous and cold-blooded preparation. However, the defense is not idle. Kosowski's attorneys urge the public to keep an open mind, stressing that their client is presumed innocent until proven guilty. They argue there is no direct evidence, no body, no witnesses to an attack, and unclear camera footage. In a surprising move, the defense once suggested Stephen might have vanished voluntarily, though many find this theory unconvincing. They also question the motive. Why would a wealthy doctor risk everything over a minor lawsuit? These disputes are heating up the atmosphere ahead of the trial. Kosowski, who previously represented himself in the lawsuit, now relies on a professional legal team. Meanwhile, Stephen's family and friends yearn for justice, but worry that the absence of a body could weaken the case. The upcoming trial is not just a legal battle, but an opportunity to unravel lingering mysteries, providing answers to a grieving community.
Camerino said a good strategy for the defense may be to plead guilty to get the death penalty off the table. Kosowski's attorney spoke to press after his client first appeared in court in March.
Keep an open mind. These are very, very serious charges. He's presumed innocent as he's currently sitting in jail. We're conducting our own investigation, and as it develops, we'll try to keep you updated.
In a motion to dismiss the case, Kosowski's attorney suggested Causey's disappearance may have been his own doing. The defense is stressing that Kosowski has not been convicted.
And he's presumed innocent despite the nature of the charges.
I was floored. I know Dr. Tom on a casual basis, have met him a couple times, chatted with him, socialized with him, and I'm just floored. I used to be a homicide investigator. I can't imagine what motive he would have to hurt anyone.
The disappearance of Stephen Causey left a void not only in the hearts of his family and friends, but also across the Largo, Florida, community. Though Thomas Kosowski has been charged and his trial looms, many questions remain unanswered. Where is Stephen's body? Was he truly killed in the Blanchard Law Office bathroom? Or did something else happen? The cameras didn't capture Stephen leaving the building, and no witnesses saw him after he entered the bathroom. These details lead some to wonder if the story is more complex than the police narrative suggests. Another question surrounds Kosowski's motive. If he acted because of a $15,000 lawsuit, why would a wealthy doctor with a stellar career choose such an extreme path? Friends describe Kosowski as gentle and slow to anger, raising suspicions of hidden conflicts with Stephen that the public doesn't know. Moreover, the sheer volume of suspicious items, cash, weapons, paralytic drugs, in Kosowski's possession suggests he might have been preparing for something beyond mere revenge. Despite the lingering mystery, Stephen Causey's legacy endures. He is remembered as a dedicated attorney who fought for justice and helped those in need. His husband, Michael, finds solace in stories from friends and colleagues, feeling as though he reconnects with Stephen through their memories. The Largo community continues to hold memorials, from fundraisers to gatherings celebrating his kindness. Many pledge to live more compassionately, helping others as Stephen did, to honor his memory. This case is not just a tragedy, but a reminder of life's fragility. As Kosowski's trial approaches, the world awaits whether justice will be served and if the mystery of Stephen Causey's fate will be resolved. Whatever the outcome, Stephen's smile and compassion will remain a guiding light for those who loved him. As for my thoughts on the case, it's a deeply unsettling puzzle. The circumstantial evidence against Kosowski, blood, fingerprints, and his suspicious preparations, is compelling. Yet the lack of a body and direct witnesses leaves room for doubt. The motive feels incomplete. A minor lawsuit seems an unlikely trigger for such calculated actions from someone of Kosowski's stature. It's possible there's more to their conflict we don't yet understand, or even external factors at play. The truth remains elusive, and I hope the trial brings clarity for Stephen's loved ones. What do you think about the case? Are there any details that stand out to you or theories you'd like to explore? Let's discuss. Stay safe and cherish those around you.